the reason that people are so good at what they do ultimately comes down to the amount of times they're willing to do it. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Actually Good Coffee podcast, the show where we talk about all things coffee related, all while I drink a cup of coffee. Today, I'm drinking a cappuccino with an extra shot from Turnstile Coffee Roasters. I have a deep connection with Turnstile, Dave, the roaster over there. Big fan of Dave. We played a lot of pickleball together when I was going through the whole SBA loan process. And I also wrote my college essay for the university that I went to for about 3 months before I came back and started working. Last week, we sold 864 pounds of coffee total. What a start to the month of June. If we're looking at last year's same week, we sold 711 pounds of coffee total. It's about a 150 pound improvement from the year before. Hopefully we continue that trend for the rest of the month. Today, I actually wanted to talk about a situation that I find myself going through more often than not. This is kind of how it seems to be how this show goes. Just really situations that I deal with throughout the week and I feel are important, probably life lessons that I could take with me later on. But this week, I wanted to go over the topic of staying level-headed and why I believe it's so important, especially when owning a business. When I was growing up, my father actually had his own construction business. When the 2008 housing market crash happened, we went from living in this $5 million home in Spring Lake, which is probably $8 million now in today's economy, to starting this vicious cycle of moving into a new home once a year for the next 8 years. Sometimes more than once a year at times. I remember when I think I was actually 15, we moved into my grandmother's house and we stayed there for about 3 to 6 months before she kicked us out. So that was a fun year. And then I actually continued this well into my late teens and early 20s and finally got into an annual rental this year. So breaking the chain. But yeah, so as a kid, as malleable as you are, I developed this feeling pattern of as soon as I started to feel comfortable, I had to pick up my whole life in a way and figure out what I wanted to bring with me and what I wanted to throw away and just move on, which is both good and bad in multiple different ways. But at first, obviously it's bad because it's this new situation I wasn't used to and it started to bleed into other areas of my life. So like as soon as things started to get good in my personal life in other areas, whether I had like a good day or things just started to go really well for me, I started to feel this overarching impending doom feeling that's like this dark cloud over my head, and I would get this like anxiety a lot. As a kid, again, very difficult because I wasn't used to this feeling, but as I got older and experienced this feeling more and more, I exposed myself to this situation in many different ways, and I got better at handling it. And I was able to remain level-headed and cool during these times because I knew what to do. It wasn't this pattern that always was going to happen. You know, you don't have to move into a rental property your entire life. You can move into an annual rental, or you can even buy a home. And as difficult as that might seem nowadays, it's still a possibility. There's things in your life that you can make staples and foundations, and even if you can't, who cares? You'll figure it out. There's always a way out of it. And that's ultimately what I believe, what I came to the conclusion of, and what helped me get to this point now where when I'm dealing with day-to-day operations involving my business, I just am able to remain level-headed and just see and focus on the long-term goal and not really get too distracted or affected by these day-to-day problems or wins. Sometimes even the wins can bring me down because when things go well, I try not to get too high, and when things get too bad, I try not to get too low. I just try to stay on this even keel. It's like my girlfriend always gives me crap for it because I come home and she's like, "How was work today?" And I was like, "Oh, it was good. It was fine." I know everyone deals with that, and maybe that is a problem that I need to get better with. But I try not to say, "Oh, it was amazing," or "Oh, it was horrible," because it's like, one, well, if you're just focusing on how horrible it was, or how terrible the workday was, it's not like that's going to get you anywhere. You're not going to make things better by just complaining about it and it being too good. I think it sets an expectation. And then, as soon as you go through the next day and it's not as good as the day before, you feel even worse because now you are just enraptured in this good, positive moment. When you're able to separate yourself from those physical happenings throughout the day, then you can just have a deeper understanding of what you're doing and what's going on and a much clearer sense of what your goals are. It's like today, right? Today is the perfect example. So right now I'm actually working from home because my landlord told me about 2 days ago that the tenant next door needed a bathroom legally. So what he had to do was bring in this company and dig out a trench on my side and put a water line and then cover it up. So I'm not able to do any roasting right now. And the reason that I'm here and not driving around to a coffee shop where I love to do work, because I hate doing work in my house, I love actually being out in public and doing work there, is because the woman that does our deliveries, her car is getting repaired. And she has no car to do all of our wholesale drop-offs today because today is Tuesday. And she has to use my car. And it's like, it's not convenient and it's not easy. And sometimes when those things pile up, it's brutal and you feel like you're paralyzed. But I know that this work is going to get done. I'm going to get my car back. Her car is going to get fixed. And if anything, it just makes it more of a priority to me to know deep down that I need to get a commercial vehicle that my employees can use when they do our deliveries. And I also need to buy my own building or be in a more reliable rented place so that I don't have to worry about what other people need. I can just have it more under what I can control, or at least in a more reliable situation. You look at these mega billionaires and even a lot of older people, and they have this sense of calm over them. I think you might see it more with these ultra wealthy people rather than these than older people, maybe. But you look at like an Elon Musk or a Mark Zuckerberg and a Jeff Bezos, and it's like these guys are robots. Like Zuckerberg, I mean, it's like the joke. I think he's like starting to come out of his shell now. He's like wearing a chain and like grew a beard or something. But these guys are like, they don't react, right? They are so calculated because they've gone through these experiences so many times over and over and over again. It's in their DNA. They don't know how else to respond except with no emotion. It's just calculated at this point. There's no emotions tied to their actions anymore. Everything is just based off of evidence that is shown to work throughout their life. And I believe that the reason that people are so good at what they do ultimately comes down to the amount of times they're willing to do it and willing to fail. That's the biggest thing. You have to be able to do it. It's like a sales job. You have to fail so many times before you can get good at it. You can take as many classes as you want. You can read as many books as you want, and it will be helpful. But ultimately, the only way you can apply what you've learned is by doing it. And you might have a good base foundation of what you're learning by reading those books or taking those classes, but if you're not actually going out and doing the things that require you to better the situation that you're in or improve on the skills you might have learned, nothing comes from it. You stand still. There's almost no point because you're not actually putting any of it into action. And I don't even mean to sound like a CrossFit gym, but working out is just the most physical example of it. It's like the more repetitions, the more volume that you do, the more your muscles grow and the better you look, right? That's it. You could take steroids, even steroids. You take steroids, you don't just take steroids and get huge. It just raises your bar on the capacity in which you're able to work out and the amount of energy you're able to expend. It doesn't matter what you take or what you do to prepare yourself for a situation. It just matters how you're able to put it into play and act on it. Hopefully you can prepare well and do put the reps in beforehand when these situations actually come about. But all that truly matters is how many times you're willing to act on it, change, learn from it, do something about it, and then get better. So I think that's it. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you again very soon.